Hey guys, it's 7 with Shawn, and just recapping this week's sermon series, or message. We started a series on James, and I'm really excited about going through James. We're going to take a long time through James. I want to encourage you guys, if you're, to be, as a group, be praying about who you can invite to the Jeremy Apfeld event. It's going to be an awesome event. And then right after that, we're going to be doing something called Christmas in the Courtyard. That's going to be awesome, and it's going to be right after Thanksgiving, and we're going to have kind of a down-home Christmas. We're going to show like an old-school Christmas movie on the wall outside in the courtyard, and it'll be for kids. There'll be a train there for kids. Santa Claus will be there. It's cocoa, s'mores, fire pits, lighting of a giant tree in the pavilion. Just kind of a cool family event. So if you know people with little kids that they want to get their Santa pictures going, and it's all free, and it's a great night for a family or grandkids, whatever it is that you have, bring them to that. It's going to be awesome. So anyways, those are kind of the things coming along. We're starting James though, and James is an important figure in the New Testament. As a matter of fact, he was the leader of the church in Jerusalem. He was one of the great fathers of our church, and he was the brother of Jesus. So in this sermon, really I talked about who he was, who he was writing to, why he was writing, and then what do we do with it? And I gave you just a little segment of really the practical wisdom that's going on in the book of James in verse 2 through 4. And the truth of the matter is, James is the brother of Jesus, and he's writing, it says, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. And really what he was writing to was this handful of Jewish Christians that were all over the Roman Empire. In Acts 8, the church in Jerusalem began to be persecuted, and they were spread all over the empire. They kind of were like, when you squish the church and you try and push them down, and they spread. They're like jello. It's like squeezing jello. And they got persecuted in Jerusalem, and they left, and everyone thought they had stopped the church. They'd stopped the Jesus movement. But the truth of the matter is, when you persecute the church, it just spreads even more. It actually is, it's an amazing thing. It's like the movie Gremlins. When you pour water on the gremlins, they just keep going. Well, that's what happened. All the Christians left Jerusalem because of the persecution, and they brought the gospel to the whole Roman Empire. The Roman Empire has changed. By the time James wrote this epistle, there had been a severe famine in Jerusalem. The Jewish Christians were being that were left were being incredibly persecuted, and so James knows trials, and he's writing to all these Jewish Christians, but the Gentile Christians also adopted this letter because it was such beautiful, practical wisdom on how to walk your faith out. See, Paul talked a lot about the gospel and how you're saved by your faith, not as a result of your works. There's nothing you can do that can get you into heaven. It's all the good work that Jesus did on the cross and the resurrection. There's not a list of good and bad, and if your good outweighs the bad, you get into heaven. No, it's all the good that Jesus did. And our righteousness is like filthy rags. Like, we can't be good enough. And Paul really emphasized that, and he was really emphasizing that to the Gentile Christians, because he was the apostle to the Gentiles. Well, James came along, and he was almost like a counterbalance for Paul. And James said, it's true, you're saved by your faith, but if you want to know if you have faith or not, look at your life. Your works, what you're doing, will reflect what you believe. And you're going to find that time and time and again in the book of James. And that's why we're calling the series A Faith That Works. We looked at verses 2 through 4. And 2 through 4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brethren, whenever you face trials of many kinds." And he goes on, he talks about how it builds perseverance in you. And we talked about what that means. It says, when you face trials. That means you're going to face trials. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're not going to face trials. Some people think because they became a Christian, they're just going to have little trials in their life now and nothing big will happen. I want you to know that's not true. You will face trials, whether you're a Christian or not, big and small. And it says when you face trials. But then it says so trials are inevitable. But then it says that also, though, then in the midst of those, you can experience joy. It says consider it pure joy, not the trial pure joy. He's saying find joy, consider joy in the midst of your trial. is really what's going on there. And I gave some examples of it, but that word perseverance, because it creates perseverance in you, is a word called hupemeno in the Greek. Hupo, or is where we get our word hyper, and meno is where we get our word stand, right? You hyper stand, you persevere. When things are coming against you, you stand strong, and then you stand even stronger. That's what James was trying to get across to us, is that in the midst of our trials, even the little ones in our life, God is teaching you to stand strong so that when the big ones come, you will stand even stronger. And think about your trials. Where else would you ever develop humility, compassion, and faith in your life if it weren't for trials? See, imagine, I gave the example, imagine as a kid, you were given everything you ever wanted, and you never failed, and your parents made sure you were never hurt, and your parents made sure no one ever hurt your feelings, and you never experienced any trial or anything in your life. One, you would be an egomaniac. You would have no compassion because you wouldn't understand pain with other people, and faith would be a difficult thing because you just, everything's always gone well. You don't need God. So in the midst of your trials, it never takes them away, but what it does is it builds those things in you, and it makes you the person God's really created you to be. Because really, ultimately, God is not building your physical body. Your physical body is decaying, but He's building you, the person inside, your soul, the person you're going to be for eternity. And in our trials, He's building humility, compassion, and faith to make you the beautiful person He's created you to be. So finally, I ended the sermon with the gospel, and I talked about how James was not a believer early on in his life. As a matter of fact, he didn't believe in Jesus, and it wasn't until after the resurrection that James became a believer. And he ended up dying for his faith. Josephus, the Roman historian, says that James was thrown off of the roof of the temple for not recanting his faith in Jesus Christ. And when he hit the ground, he didn't die, and he rose to his knees and he began to pray, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they do." And they ran down and they stoned him right there in the temple courts. And then they beat him on the head with the fuller's rod until he was dead. And this is a guy that understood trial, but he also he saw the resurrected Jesus. The older brother came for the younger brother to get him and rescue him at all costs. And this is the gospel, that God left everything. Jesus left everything to come and get you and bring you back to the Father. You're like the younger brother, the prodigal. And Jesus is the true older brother, not the bad older brother, the prodigal son story, but the true older brother who came to get you. So anyways, guys, enjoy the study. You're going to jump around the Bible a little bit and go be the church.